I first got involved with my local APA chapter, which was the Kansas chapter, when I was asked if I would be the newsletter editor. And this kind of dates me because at the time, Kansas was still sending out a paper newsletter. And I was asked to do this because it was something that I was the neighborhood planner for the city of Olathe, Kansas, and that's one of the things I did was I helped the neighborhoods in our older neighborhoods that did not have a neighborhood association with things like communicating to neighborhood residents. And so our chapter president worked for Johnson County at the time, and so somehow he got connected with me, and I did paper newsletters for the state of Kansas for a little while. And then eventually, we were having new elections, and we had complete turnover on our board. And I thought it would be fun to be involved with the board, to be more involved with the board. And I got a phone call from another planner who was putting together like a slate of candidates for each of the positions. And he was running for secretary, he had someone to run for treasurer, they had someone to run for president, and they needed a vice president. And there was three men. They're like, we need somebody who's not a man. So somehow they got connected with me. And it turned out to be a case of mistaken identity. So he had previously worked with one of my coworkers whose name was also Sara. And they couldn't remember the Sarah's last name. So somehow when they called my office, they got me, and I was like, oh, I had already been thinking of this. This is great. And it wasn't until like literally years later that we all realized, or he realized, that he had meant to call my coworker Sara and not me. And it was too late by then. And she probably would have said no anyway. But that's how I got started, was a little bit of mistaken identity. And then I was like fired up, and there were two other people running for vice president, and I talked to everybody I knew basically and won that election, and it's been no looking back from there. So we were planning the first chapter conference in years, and none of us really knew what we were doing because none of us had done it before. But we were just determined that we were going to put on, something great and fun, and so just, kind of learned by doing how to put on a great chapter conference, and it was so exciting. The first one we did, and really the first, second, third, it was just always really exciting to see all of these planners in the same place, talking about the things that they were doing. We always had, visitors from, APA, our regional representative, FAICPs who were, from outside the region, who would come and speak and, encourage us in what we were doing. But especially that first chapter conference, I remember being so proud that we actually pulled it off. When people ask me about leadership, I'm always encouraging them to do it, just to find a place to get involved and just to do it. And then also encouraging people to stay involved and think about what else they could be involved in. I started out as the chapter newsletter editor, but I've also been involved in my local section in Kansas City as an at-large rep on their board and on the programming committee. I've been involved in 2 state chapters, actually, Kansas and Missouri. I've been involved at the national level, and they've just all been valuable and fun too, really. So I think the first thing I would say is, just do it. Find something to get involved with and just try it out, because it's a great way to meet people, but also to learn other ways to be involved. So there's never a bad place to start. There's never a bad time to start, in my opinion. And particularly people in my area who express interest, I'm always asking, well, how can I help you? How can I connect you with an opportunity? Because we're always looking for people to be involved, and sometimes you just need somebody to make a suggestion or to encourage you, and I'm happy to do that. one side of leadership is always, having a vision for the future and being able to chart a course towards that vision gets other people moving in that direction also, right? So there's this strategic and encouraging, role for leadership to keep a group, an association, moving towards a vision for the future. But I also think that there's just a roll up your sleeves and get stuff done aspect to leadership that sometimes, doesn't get as much glory. There is, especially I think when we think about the local level or our state chapters, there is, a real need for leaders who are going to, when they need to, roll up their sleeves and do the work to help things get accomplished. And we really need in our organization both kinds of leaders, the inspirational, visionary, aspirational people, and then the we're all gonna get some work done together kinds of leaders. So I think we need both of those. So my APA volunteer experience really helped enrich my professional life by connecting me with so many other planners and so many other kinds of planners and working in certain specialties or in other parts of the country, and just having that network and that support system, especially in the rest of my professional life where I was the only planner or one of just a few planners, was really wonderful because it made me feel like I was part of a bigger profession than if I had just been on by myself in the office as the only planner every day. There were definitely times when I felt like my APA experience was giving me real leadership lessons that I eventually did apply in my own office. When I became a planning director, I'd had, it's different than overseeing, staff on a day-to-day basis, but I'd had experience in giving people direction and telling them when something was going wrong, in working with people on trying to improve programs and giving feedback. So it's been such an integral part of my whole career and making me into the professional that I am now. I don't know where I would be if I hadn't had those APA experiences of being a chapter leader and being involved on the national level in leadership, because it's just contributed so much and it's been so valuable to me.